Hello, hello. Welcome back to another edition of ADHD Unedited. So I am going to do this a little bit differently this week. I've been kind of toying with the best way to go about some of these as far as podcast, video, audio only, that kind of stuff. So I just did an audio version of this, but I want to try it with the video, but a little bit. Not that I have them scripted, but sometimes I have a little bit more of a framework to follow. And today I'm going to do a little bit more off the cuff. We'll see how that goes. But I want to chat about RSD, which is Rejection Sensitivity Dysphoria. And this is what I wrote my Momentum Monday email on this week, depending on when you are seeing this video. That came out what is today? It came out July 6th, 2025. So you can go back in the blog on my website, leahccoaching.com, if you want to read that full blog post. But I'm going to read you that email. And as I read the email, I'm going to kind of dive in a little bit deeper. So yeah, RSD, rejection sensitivity. I say sensitivity. I've read it as rejection sensitive dysphoria. I don't know. Sensitivity makes more sense to me, but I'm sure people are going to come at me. So I'm sorry about that. But yeah, so today we're diving into RSD, and it's something that a lot of us have experienced on a regular basis. But just thought or were told that we were too sensitive. So it actually is a thing. I think that there is a little bit of controversy within the ADHD space of what is it? Does it really exist? Is it really a thing? Are we just a bit more, sensitive? Or are people doing some shitty things? And anybody would be sensitive to those, right? So for those of you that aren't 100% familiar with what I'm talking about, it's that feeling when maybe somebody takes a little too long to reply to a message and suddenly you are spiraling. So asking yourself, are they mad at me? Did I screw something up? They must not like me anymore. Or even asking that person, hey, are you mad at me? Hey, have I screwed something up? And that is just one example of RSD kind of hijacking the narrative. And when it hits pretty hard. It's like a ton of bricks. But what if we kind of flipped the script and looked at it through a different lens? I guarantee, well, this is just me, but I think a lot of us struggle with this. There are plenty of times that you don't text back right away. Not because you're mad or secretly hating someone, but because you are overwhelmed. Your brain is juggling 42 open tabs, or you just can't. You just don't have the capacity right now to come up with the answer that is being asked. So you take a minute, maybe you forget after you've opened up the message. And again, this is just one example of RSD. But once you're having this moment of like, I just can't right now. I just do not have the capacity at the moment. And then you get hit with like, are you mad at me? Did I do something wrong? You feel even worse. Like, oh shit. Like, no, of course I'm not mad at you. You're already stretched pretty thin. And now it's your job to reassure somebody else that like, no, I'm not mad at you. I'm just having a day or a moment or, all the things. So I think that we've got to be really cognizant of, I want permission to say, not right now, or to just be able to leave people unread for a little bit and not be guilt tripped into, are you mad at me? So if I want to be able to say no, or let me get back to you later, or, just take a minute, if I want that to be received with grace, then I have to be willing to offer that same grace to others. Does that make sense? So one of the best examples I have of this is, I'll try to make it a short story, but #ADHD. So I live in Germany, but I go home once or twice a year. Last year I was home. I'd messaged my sister-in-law and I was like, hey, I'm just going to pop by. It was kind of around dinner. I'm going to pop by and say, hey, maybe I'll have dinner with you guys. Like, whatever. Now, I need to preface this with, my sister-in-law and my brother have 3 kids. They're all in school and sports and this and that. And, they're kids. They're crazy. They're running around this, and this. So anyway, my sister-in-law's like, yeah, cool. See you in a bit. Then I get a message back from her. She's like, hey, I chatted with your brother and the kids are crazy. We still have homework to do. We're trying to get dinner on the table. And then we've got bedtime stuff. He said that tonight's just not a good night. Devastation. I think I literally was like in my car and I was like, he doesn't love me. It was the whole big thing. Felt like I'd been kind of punched in the stomach of like, oh, he doesn't want me over there. He doesn't want to make the time for me. He's upset with me for something else. So I had to like really sit with it and be like, wait a minute. This has nothing to do with you, unfortunately. This has to do with the fact that there's 3 kids and there's homework going on and they're still trying to get dinner sorted. And then they've got bath time and bed, reading books and bedtime and blah, 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 blah. And then they've got to clean up after dinner. They got to pack lunches. And at that moment, they just didn't need another body in the house. And then I show up and the kids get even more rambunctious and I kind of rile them up as well. And so, yeah, he is 100% allowed to say tonight's not a good night without me being like, are you mad at me? Did I do something wrong? It's like, no, what? This has nothing to do with you. So I really had to kind of sit with that. And I stay at my mom's when I'm in the States. And there are times where I don't feel like him and the kids coming over because they're a lot. They're kids. They're loud. I don't have kids. They disrupt me, but I love them to bits. But it is a lot. If I've had a really long day, I've got a lot of work, I've got an early morning tomorrow because I, misread my calendar when I was still in Europe. So now I have a 5 a.m. call. Anyway, I want to be able to say, hey, tonight's not a good night for you and the kids to come over without him being like, why? You don't like my kids? You don't want me bringing the kids over? Because that is the furthest thing from the truth. It is usually a capacity issue. I just don't have the capacity tonight to, be there in a way that feels really good. I just need a minute to myself or whatever it is. So if I want to be able to say no and have it, handled and accepted with, oh yeah, totally get it. No worries. We'll do something later in the week. Then I need to be able to extend that same grace to him. Of like, oh yeah, he's just having a rough evening. They're trying to get things, going. The kids are crazy. Yeah, of course, that doesn't have anything to do with me. So yeah, that was my long story short of like a very good example of when RSD hit. And I realized that it was like, I was feeling overly sensitive to something that didn't quite deserve that much of my energy. And even the moment, like I said, I'm pretty sure I can remember I was in the car and I'm pretty sure I cried. Like, I'm pretty sure I was like, doesn't love me. And then I can kind of sit with it and be like, wait, this isn't real. Right? Sometimes it is. I'm not saying that it's always that kind of black and white. I know that there's a lot of gray when it comes to this. So this is not me being like, buck up, buttercup, and just, get your shit together. I understand that RSD is a really visceral feeling. I just invite you to see if you can flip it and extend the grace that you would want if you were on the other side of it. So why this matters. Our brains are wired to interpret, I can never say this word, ambiguity as rejection. And this goes back to a bit of our lizard brain survival tactic kind of thing of, oh my gosh, they don't like me. I'm going to be ostracized. I'm going to be alone. I'm going to die. Now, that is not what you were consciously thinking. It's that lizard brain going back to kind of tribal times when if you were ostracized, you would die. You had to have your people. So it is there as a survival technique, but it plays up a little bit. Like it doesn't quite fit the times. So we have to realize when this is happening and really be able to have that self-awareness to ask the question of, okay, is this an actual rejection of sorts that is worth like, oh my gosh, they hate me? Or is this my brain kind of playing with that and making me think that it's more about me than it actually is? Also, many of us are hypersensitive to emotional shifts, and that can kind of play up with how sensitive we are to rejection. And that can go back to how we were raised, that kind of stuff, always having to be, hyper vigilant of other people's emotions. It can go back to a lot of things. And then sometimes we forget that other people have lives and struggles that have absolutely nothing to do with us. And that doesn't make us assholes. Like, we're not just like, oh my God, it's all about me, even though we kind of are. Not as ADHDers necessarily. I think that's more of just like a humanistic trait. We are the center of our own universes. We are the sun for the most part, because I'm with myself all day. I'm trying to keep myself alive. I've got to feed myself. I've got to make sure I drink enough water. I've got to, make sure I shower. Like, at the end of the day, I am with me all day. So sometimes it's kind of hard to get out of the weeds of that, of taking things personal and making assumptions. And I always recommend the 4 Agreements. It's a great book about not taking things personal, not making assumptions, all of that kind of thing. And again, I understand that all of the things that are coming out of my mouth right now are very nuanced. They're not black and white. There's a lot of gray that goes on. So, just keeping in mind that coworker who didn't smile, maybe they're rehashing a breakup in their head. Maybe they've got a sick parent. Maybe they are running off of 2 hours of sleep because of, their sleep patterns are all messed up. Whatever it is, it's probably not an intentional, I'm not smiling back because I don't like you. Sometimes it is, but usually it's not. Or that friend that left you unread, maybe they're peopled out, not necessarily pissed off, especially at you. And keeping in mind that, like, sometimes people just need a minute. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about them. And that's okay. So, with this said, I would also just quickly like to point out that this is not a free pass to ghost people. We've all been there, ignored by a friend, left in limbo after a date, ghosted by someone we thought we could trust. And when RSD is part of that equation, that kind of silence can feel like rejection on steroids. As someone that struggles with RSD, I want to really make sure that ghosting is not part of my response, reaction, whatever, to things, because I know how terrible that feels. I know how terrible it is to be ghosted or just left hanging. That kind of rejection is brutal. So don't ghost people. It is one of those things where most people would much rather hear a simple, honest update than to be left hanging in the dark and wondering, because that spiral is typically going to be so much worse than what's actually going on. And just like, let them know, rip off the Band-Aid, do it quickly, put them out of their misery, let them know what's going on. I feel like the ghosting is avoidant. It is disrespectful. And unless there's a serious kind of safety concern there, it's rarely justified to ghost somebody. You don't need to over-explain. Just close the loop. In this case, clarity is kindness. And again, I know that this is not just black and white. There's a lot of gray area when it comes to this. But, if you feel guilty, if something like that is going on, then it's typically in the ghosting category. And it can feel really uncomfortable to reach out and say what needs to be said. But that's really good training for those communication skills that some of us struggle with. So yeah. Again, just not a free pass to ghost. Just keep that in mind. So this week's action item: when your brain starts to spiral about someone's delay or distance, stop, see if you can flip the lens. Ask yourself what might be happening on their side, and then extend the grace that you'd want if the roles were reversed, right? We're not trying to bypass our feelings, but we are trying to stop assuming the worst. That is where the growth is. That's where healing happens. And that is really how we take care of ourselves and our people. So, yeah. Thank you guys for being here. If you have any questions about RSD or anything else that comes up in these episodes, please reach out. You can find me over on Instagram at adhd.coach.leah. There's some resources there. You can jump on a free call. Head over to my website, same thing, leahccoaching.com, and take a look at past blogs, past emails, past videos, jump on a free call, look at the group programs, all kinds of stuff over there. So thanks again for being here, and I will see you next week. Bye.